Bandit camps dot the map of CALRADIA, providing safe haven for all the many types of brigands throughout the landscape of the map. From the sprawling steppe bandits to the deadly forest bandits, you'll find hideouts no matter where you go. And attached to that, you'll find a village or two that is eager to have the hideout dealt with. But what exactly is the benefit of defeating these bandits, and how does that play into your campaign? In this guide, we're going to discuss why dealing with bandits is a good idea from the early game straight through to the late game, and how that extends to the greater economy as well as how to deal with these bandits. I'm going to go through each one of the bandit hideouts using a fancy camera mod to give you an idea of the layout as well as some tips to approaching each one. More on that when we get to that section, but let's get started. Now I've loaded into my Khazate campaign that has the lovely White Scars banner from Warhammer 40k, and this might be one of the best locations on the map to exemplify what happens when you let bandits go unchecked. And this is the same thing in the northwestern portion of Valandia around Ostakin. But when I scroll out, you can see that there are 5 bandit camps around me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I know there's another one right over here because I had to travel over here to find this. But these bandit camps act as hubs for, in this case, steppe bandits. And from here, they will continue to spawn and grow in number, using the hideouts as a staging point back and forth to store prisoners and gather. Now, when these hideouts are active, the bandits will spawn and travel around the map. Now, from what I've experienced, and this is a little bit conjecture here, when a group of bandits is inside of a hideout, another group has a chance of spawning because it's basically like that group doesn't exist against some sort of like hidden world cap. So when you look at the bandit hideout, let me zoom in here. You'll see that these little pitchforks under the hideout name, and that shows what groups are in there. Hovering over it will give you more details. So I can see there's one group of 15 steppe bandits and one group of 6. Zooming back in here, let's take a look at what's happening next to my character. This hapless group of villagers is being attacked by both looters and steppe bandits, which is something to kind of take note of. Looters can aid any type of bandit as if they're allied forces. When the bandits win this fight, they'll take the goods as well as the villagers as prisoners. So if you see a mass of peasants as prisoners of any bandit group, you're basically seeing the aftermath. And sometimes you'll see this in the hideout themselves. In fact, I think this one said it had some prisoners. Yeah, so this has got prisoners where this is actually attacked what looks to be an Imperial force or an Imperial armed caravan. But why this is important is that the villagers are the lifeblood to CALRADIA. They are the basest and smallest block in the economical chain. Villages produce a commodity, so in this case, Samara produces cows. Villagers then transport that commodity to the closest allied city or town, if you want to call it that. Samira transports their goods to Ortengard. It doesn't say it here anymore, but I hovered over this villager before he got attacked, and it said that he was en route to Ortengard over here. There we go, Ortengard. And what this is big here is because that city then trades those goods to caravans who spread that wealth across the map. This will then increase the prosperity and production of that city, and everything rises with it. With villagers getting killed in droves by unchecked banditry, this will prevent your cities from growing and hinder your economy, especially if you own any of these fiefs. So this is why killing bandits is extremely important from day 1 to day 1000. Dead villagers mean no trade goods being transported, and that means a flatter economy and lower base power for your faction. Now that we've gone through why this is important, let's go through the individual hideouts. And the way I'm going to do this step is by touching on each one from the easiest, or at least I guess the weakest, all the way to the hardest hideout. And let me hit this with a disclaimer up front. This is bound to change in the coming patches and updates, especially since we're in early access. So again, just take this with a grain of salt. Lastly, I'll be putting a table of contents in the comments section for easier navigation as a reference point going forward if you decide to come back to this video when you hit a certain hideout you're having trouble with. Let's jump into our first hideout. First things first, preparation. Now, it's been said that organizing your troops from top to bottom does not work like it did in Warband. But, I mean, it's still something that I like to do, even if it's not guaranteed to work. Here's my party screen, and there's something to consider. You're going to take 10 soldiers with you, your companions first, than the next. And it just so happens that in my army, I have a high amount of both archers and horse archers. That works to my advantage. Also, my character has a high amount of archery. These 2 points are crucial, as ranged attacks really save the day when it comes to making even the hardest bandit camp approachable and easy. With this setup, I hope to be taking some marksmen, see right here, some Khan's Guard, some horse archers, or at the very least, Darken. Again, it's random, and having a high amount of archers and or horse archers will at least increase your odds of getting strong ranged troops, but you cannot guarantee it right now, unfortunately. Maybe in the future you can, but again, as of right now, as of patch 1.40, you cannot. So with that, our first camp is a Desert Bandit Hideout. The camp I truly feel is the easiest. Bedouin Rovers and Nomad Bandits both have very light armor. And even the Harami doesn't have the heaviest armor as well. In addition to that, you're looking at 3 units that really have very limited access to range, with the Harami having only 3 range throwing weapons. So when you take a look at the other camps, they have a lot more range at their disposal. So we'll press attack here and get started. Once you've loaded in, the first thing you should do is select your entire army and press F4. This is going to make it so that they will now start to fire at will. Otherwise, they won't do that. I'm going to press a button here that should... There we go. Now I can kind of rove around the map and look at everything. Pretty cool, right? This I'll put the link to this camera mod in my description so you can use it if you want. But the big thing here too is you also want to have your entire army follow you. And by doing this, by slowly kind of walking throughout this hideout, you can deal with things in a smaller, more manageable groups. So right now, for example, by doing what we're doing, we're only going to deal with 2 or 3 of these bandits right at the beginning, or I'm sorry, just 2. I thought this sack over here was a bandit. So it looks like we're just going to deal with 1 Harami and 1 Bedouin Rover over there. So it becomes, again, a lot more manageable. And by the end of this hideout, and we're not going to go through the whole thing here, you'll have a bandit boss and 3 random mid to high tier bandits that will spawn alongside them. The boss will challenge you, to which I say you should almost always accept if you're beyond the beginning portion of the game. It just increases your captives for selling and influence. At the start of the game, though, absolutely decline and use your troops to help you. It can be a pretty steep battle if you don't have good arms and armor. But what we're going to quickly do here is just kind of go up here in the air and take a look at this bandit hideout. And you can really kind of see that it's very spread out. It has a lot of natural cutoffs and rooms, so there's not a lot of huge open expanse. So even if you do have a bandit camp that is comprised of a lot of Harami, you're not going to deal with a situation where they're going to be throwing at you freely from across this map. And as you kind of weave through these tunnels here, you can see that, again, you're going to deal with small rooms and pockets on the left and the right here with not a ton of bandits inside of them. So this is why I think the Desert Bandit hideout, on top of the actual units themselves being very easy to deal with, I think that the layout of the hideout also makes it very easy. When we talk about the hardest one, you'll see why that layout is going to be really working to the advantage of the bandits inside of it. Again, here just kind of perusing through, and as you kind of get down here, if you hold down tab, you can see there's only 4 bandits. Let's just say there was 1 or 2 and I couldn't find them. You could just issue all of your units to charge and they'll run through the hideout looking for those bandits and killing them for you. But this kind of sums up the Desert Bandits, and hopefully it makes it a lot easier for you to kind of deal with here. If I press this button, I should, there we go. My guys will just kind of do their business and kill these as needed. But it should make it a lot easier for you to deal with. One thing I do want to take a look at though real quick, we'll retreat. It's not going to be a big deal. But every single bandit hideout will sometimes have, if I hold down, I'll leave this, we'll hold down Alt, prisoners. So Asarai tribesmen, horsemen, footmen, recruits, Mamluk soldiers, and axemen. So winning this hideout also will grant me those troops to directly recruit into my army. So now that we've gone over a lot of the important details for preparation, how to really approach a bandit camp, we're just going to pretty much now jump through the individual bandit camps and talk about them on a pretty high level, their individual loadout for their troop types, and how I would best approach it. I think that if it wasn't obvious enough for the desert hideout, it's pretty much just slowly walking through them and dealing with them as you come across units. The desert one is so easy that there's no real big crazy strategy. It's just, for the most part, deal with things as they come your way, put your things on release, make sure they don't have hold your fire, and just have them follow you. Let's jump over to our next bandit camp. Next bandit hideout on our list is the Steppe Bandits. And the Steppe Bandits are pretty interesting. If I bring them up right here, you can see at the very bottom, they don't really have great armor and they just have a mace. But the Marauder and the Raider both have access to polearms with glaives on the Raider end and archery. So they do have some bows that they can use to their advantage. This might make them seem pretty deadly, but when we jump into the actual hideout, you'll see how the layout of the hideout is actually going to work to your advantage as the player. Now, one thing I don't think I properly illustrated in the previous hideout is the breakdown of the inhabitants of the bandit hideout. So by hovering over it, I can see that there are a total of 21 Steppe Bandits, 2 separate groups, 15 and 6. But by holding down Alt, I now can see that there are 10 Marauders, 10 Raiders, and 1 Steppe Bandit boss. So there's no tier 2 or the base level Steppe Bandits here, which actually kind of makes it a little bit scarier. So just because you see 2 units here doesn't mean that it's going to be necessarily an easy fight. You want to hold down Alt and really get a sense for what kind of bandits are in it. But we're going to jump in here real quick and take a look at this. And again, we're going to approach this with the same way we're going to do every single one. Turn off. Hold fire. Oh, no, do not do that. You're going to follow me. And then you're going to press F4. And then I'm going to have them follow me. I'm going to hug the right side over here. And this is, once you get past this part, the rest of the camp is pretty easy. My guys are going to start shooting. I'm going to start shooting and missing. And miss again. And you can kind of shoot a tree too. But you can kind of move around left and right when you see them starting to take aim, because they might actually miss past you. But if you move up here on this right ridge, this is how it's going to make this initial part way easier. They'll pool up over here on the right, easy targets, and you'll have a little bit of a height advantage. You'll be able to kind of pick them off one at a time, walking forward here a little bit. They're down there, and I'm going to shoot into them. And then my guys are going to chop into them if they don't have range weapons, as you've seen. But this way I can get vantage point over here, a vantage point over here, and a vantage point up there. So this guy, he can't see me and my guys aren't shooting at him, but I can see him. And I can just miss him too. Really missing the hell out of it today. There we go. Got him again. And as they kind of come into aggro range, your guys will kind of take suit as well. So now that we've dealt with that, to be totally honest, this bandit hideout is now far more approachable and easy, because you're just going to be going through the same old shtick as you did with the previous bandit hideout. You're going to be walking through a series of caves that are going to have a little offshoots here. And the nice thing is, when you approach areas like this, some will be at the top, which for some reason to me, it just makes it way easier. They don't really aggro you right away, and they'll kind of hang out there. So you can just pop a vantage point here and shoot into them. And honestly, your guys will probably kill them before you even get a shot off. And as you kind of move your way through it, it's just going to be a lot of the same thing repeated over and over. So because of this layout right here, all the advantages that they would have gotten from their archery are mitigated so well by the natural caves here. You can duck down behind these little the little pathway, come down here and shoot back up, kind of peek back and forth. So you have a lot of really nice cover innately built into this hideout's layout that really is going to work to your advantage when you're trying to deal with Steppe Bandits. And like I said, as soon as you deal with this open portion, there's no real direct vantage points to you to take a lot of shots in, so you can just kind of take everything piecemeal, just like you could with the Desert Bandits. Now, our third bandit hideout on the list is the Sea Raiders. This is about the middle point, right? There's 2 more bandit groups to go through, and I think there's a sharp increase in difficulty between the previous 2 hideouts and the next 3, this one included. Sea Raiders on the open field, I would never really approach in mass. You can get really unlucky with a shot, they can kill you or kill one of your high-tiered units, and it's pretty unfortunate. The nice thing about a hideout is that you're going to have a lot of your companions with you, so they won't permanently die yet until they implement that. But when we take a look at the Sea Raiders, their base form, not really too scary. But Sea Raider warriors have a lot of harpoons that they can throw and do a lot of damage at you. And Sea Raider chiefs are even heavily armored versions of the previous one with throwing axes. So there's a lot of heavy armor to deal with these bandits. In fact, I think they are the most heavily armored bandits next to the max tier version of the mountain bandits. So be careful here. In fact, taking a look at this one, I know it says just 2 little stacks, but this is still 26 Sea Raiders, with the majority of them being warriors and chiefs. So more often than not, I actually would not attack this hideout because it's going to be very difficult. But I do want to show you how I would approach it if I were being spicy and saucy and how to deal with it. So again, fire at will on everyone, and everyone follows me. And again, we're going to use the ridge on the right, just like we did with the previous one. Come up here. I definitely need more athletics in this character if it wasn't evident enough. And you might get unlucky here. So I'm actually going to press this button. There we go. You might get unlucky, and this camp right here might be fully populated with like 5 or 6. And that kind of makes this strategy a little harder to pull off because their shields are pretty big. So when you're fighting Sea Raiders, it's a nice, I guess, tip to shoot at their legs sometimes, because they will always keep that big round circular shield around their chest and head area, so it's harder to get those headshots off. And especially if your guys are already shooting, then you know that they're going to keep that shield up, and it'll make shooting at their legs way easier. So maybe we can kind of get lucky here and not get too much stuff pulled in at once. Oh! I'll usually take a shot and move. Take a shot and move. Aha! So from here, it's really a lot of the same approach as it was with the Steppe Bandits. Just deal with things slowly, a little bit at a time. And again, having archery is such a huge boon in this situation. Crossbow's fine. Throwing weapons a little bit harder to really get a massive advantage out of. But I mean, I can shoot this guy from all the way over there. I mean, obviously I just hit a shield, but still. Oh, or in the head! Sorry, I get a little carried away. But you see, as we kind of cull the outside of this camp, again, you're just going to have to fall into the same pattern you did with the previous ones, dealing with the outside portions before you eventually jump into the interior. So running over here because I have the slowest athletics in the world, you can see I only have one more guy to kill out here before I'm going to have to start moving into the inside. And if you do the Sea Raider camp, this last portion is not connected to the rest of it. As you can see right here, it kind of has this guy in here, and then you go up over here. Oh, and it is connected. I'm sorry. I thought this had a portion that was just completely cut off. Maybe I didn't ever actually realize that had a ramp. But as you move through, you'll just kind of see, again, 2 pockets, 3 or 4 people at a time. And this obviously will populate more if there are larger mounts of bandits in the camp. But this should at least give you an easier approach to this, because you just have these guys isolated in these smaller portions. Their throwing weapons are pretty deadly in these smaller portions as opposed to archery. But again, you can still kind of use the natural curves of the cave or the slopes to your advantage to try and get some headshots off, or just duck behind to dodge some of those throwing attacks. Let's move over to our next camp. Our second hardest bandit camp on the list are the mountain bandits, the very first group of bandits you ever encounter in the game during the tutorial. And it's not because the hillmen are so challenging, in fact they're quite easy, but it's because the brigands have woodland chainmail, and they've got throwing weapons. And then the highwaymen also have throwing weapons, and they've got the tier 5, I think it's a banded brigandine over chainmail Vlandian vest. So they're pretty well armored. I'd say the Sea Raiders can be a little bit more imposing, but these guys, the biggest thing going for them is their bandit hideout layout. It is scary. So if we again put these guys at fire will and to have them follow me. And the first hut I've always realized is never really that stocked up. It usually only has like 1 or 2 people in it, and they're usually just pretty easy to take out. Now, tactically, I wish I had like a surefire way to always beat this one. I think your biggest advantage here is going to require you to have a ranged weapon. And if you have a ranged weapon, you can actually pull things to you without having to really push yourself too far into the open. So for example, I'm just going to shoot him. He's going to come towards me, and he's going to get a headshot. And you can even... This is one of the cases where I would almost maybe create a firing line, where you don't necessarily rush to every location together. You hold the higher ground, and like this. Go here. No, go here. No, go here. Go here. Thank you. And they'll kind of do their thing. And just kind of shoot at things while I go and try to pull stuff to them. Again, trying to use as much of the ground as I can. Shoot and move, shoot and move, stick and move, stick and move. There we go. So this is again another location where I would kind of bring them to me, kind of almost like a waypoint. I want them to kind of be in cover with me, but also like out of harm's way relatively. Let's go ahead and put them right here again. And then I'll pull things back to these guys again. You can see that I'm pretty lucky because they're actually already starting to shoot at things. Better not be following me, mister. Told you to wait over there. They're doing a pretty good job over there, actually. Hey, look. A congregation. And then I'll just kind of run back. You can even pull out a shield and walk back slowly if you want. Depending on what's chasing after you. Oh ho! Because the important thing here is you want your men to do a lot of the damage. Yeah, I'm just kind of taking these shots left and right, left and right. And they're the ones that are going to do all the fun for me. And this is, I think, important for the next two bandit hideouts, because you're going to be dealing, like I said, with a lot of ranged attacks coming your way. Hope you're kind of getting the gist of what's going on here. Oh. I mean, or you could just be the Robin Hood of the Khazate and just completely headshot everyone. So, as you kind of make your way through this camp, and this one actually has a lot more than the Sea Raider camp, I think. No, it actually has less, but still. My point is, just kind of use your men as almost like a turret. Bring them back to your men. Bring them back to your men. You don't have to use them in tow with you. I think for the first two camps, it's a good idea. The third one, I still think it's a good idea because they're going to be running to you a lot. This third one, or I'm sorry, this fourth one, and then the fifth one we're about to talk about, it's really going to be up to you to find those good positions, to have them have good vantage points, to shoot back into the enemy. Let's now jump into what I feel is the hardest bandit camp. So here we are at the Forest Bandit Hideout, and I think that everyone kind of saw this coming. We all know that the Forest Bandits in their hideout, I think, are way stronger than in the open field. If I had to compare the Forest Bandits to any other bandit, I actually say they're quite weak by comparison. I think Steppe Bandits and Sea Raiders are way more challenging than Forest Bandits, just because they're easier to ride down, they have lower armor. But if I take a look at this, Bushwhackers, Freebooters, and Forest Bandits, in fact, assaulting a bunch of people, all have bows and arrows. And I mean, this is a hunting bow, then to a longbow, then to a noble longbow. So you get a very huge steep climb in damage. And since there's no scaling damage necessarily for archery, it does do a little bit less with the lower end bows, but they still all do a massive amount of damage. The Forest Bandits are just very deadly. And even jumping into the hideout itself, you can see, I'm just going to immediately jump into the special mode. It's all open, and it's, again, this is nighttime, so I apologize if you're struggling to see anything. It's all open. They're walking in between all the camps. They're patrolling in ways that are much different than the previous camps. Remember the Sea Raider camp? They're only patrolling on the beach, really. The desert and the steppe camps, they're only patrolling outside of the caves. Even the other one, they really don't patrol much in between their respective little camps. The force bandits are way more interconnected. These two bandit locations will typically aggro together. If you kill one of these little scouts, it might pull both bandit locations. So if you start over here, you definitely have to push up to this side or this side to try and get a high ground fast. And you really want to be able to pick apart one camp as succinctly as possible. Because if you aggro two camps at once, or heaven forbid, you kill this guy and it aggroes both, it just becomes a hornet's nest really fast. And this is one of those bandit camps where I won't even touch it majority of the time, even if it's at a low number. Like this has only got 8 guys, and that's pretty manageable, but you can get pretty unlucky with these spawns on these camps and have it like be 3, 3, 1. There you go, there's 7, and then another guy over here. You're going to be dealing with 7 shots coming at you pretty hot and fast. Let's jump back over here. We're going to go turn fire at will on, or did I just turn it off? Yeah. And I'm going to have them follow me again. They're already kind of shooting at this little outpost here. Get this higher ground, because you might aggro this camp and not even realize it. And I'm using that term a lot here from a MMO stance. I mean that you might be pulling that camp to you, is what I say when I say aggro. There we go. And pushing over here, you can see that now we've got a better vantage point. We're a little bit more covered from this angle, and we can shoot into these guys a little bit more one at a time. And if you've got a bow and arrow, keep in mind, if you miss and you get like a real wild shot and hit, like if I do this, it pulls that whole camp. If I keep doing it and keep missing, or even if I hit one, they'll start coming towards me. So push up to that high ground, push over to this first camp, attack it and kill it as fast as you can. And then you can really kind of set your guys here, if you so wish, and have them kind of do the same thing as you did with our mountain bandits. Now I'm going to kind of range forward, pull to me, kind of stand in the way of my own units, so that way any shots will come towards me instead of my units. And typically I find that to be a little bit more advantageous than just having your units take it, because as you go through the camp, that's basically a resource you're depleting. Guys are already taking shots over there, and again we'll just do the same thing over there. So as you can see, the Force Bandit hideout on the low end can still be kind of scary if you get a very unlucky spawn on all these camps. But pushing up towards this top high ground and then pushing down this direction to this camp allows you to keep a constant high, again, vantage point, and using your men as a little bit of a turret battery to have them focus on any of the bandits that you're now pulling towards you is the best way to approach this camp and, of course, the mountain bandit camp. So hopefully this helps you guys out in dealing with the bandit hideouts. I know they can be kind of tricky, and it really depends on your character. Did you go with a lot of archery? Did you go with crossbow? If you didn't go with either of those, you can do the same tactic that we've been doing for the bandits in both the forest and the mountains to all of the camps. Put your shield up, have your companions and your archer-based units do all the damage, and you just tank it with your shield. Have them hit your shield, kind of step left and right, back and forth. That way they'll miss some of their shots because they're going to be trying to lead you with their shots. So again, hopefully this helps you out. Go ahead and let me know in the comment section below which bandit camp you're really struggling with. And if some of these tips really just didn't help you, I can really try to do what I can to at least help step you through it in another way that might make a little bit more sense for your specific playthrough. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. We've got a lot of fun planned on the channel for continued Mountain Blade coverage and guides. I've got another guide planned for advanced combat tactics coming that really goes into the nitty-gritty of charge, advance, and follow me, and so on and so forth. But as always, guys, like I say, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment below, and all that fun action. But have a good one, and take care.